And we are following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The Washington football team has signed defensive tackle Jonathan Allen to a 4-year, $72 million extension. That, according to his agency. The deal also includes a $30 million signing bonus. Allen, drafted by Washington back in 2017 with the 17th overall pick. He started in all 16 games for Washington last season. He's actually only missed one since he was drafted. In that time, tallied over 200 tackles, 17 sacks in his first 4 NFL seasons. So taking a look at where he now ranks amongst the highest paid defensive tackles, Jonathan Allen is now 4th on that list. He will now be under contract until 2025. Let's welcome our good friend, NFL writer Ryan Wilson here. Jonathan Allen tweeting out Washington for life. We know he's excited about it. He was entering the final year of his rookie contract. They didn't want to let him go to free agency after this. So how important was it for Washington to get him locked up?
Incredibly important, Amanda. He was in the final year of his deal. He's only 26 years old. You mentioned he's a former first-round pick. And Washington had a history of drafting a ton of guys in the first round along that defensive line. They drafted his teammate Daron Payne out of Alabama as well. We know at Chase Young last year, the year before that, Montez Sweat. And that defense, starting with Jonathan Allen, is a huge part of why they were so successful last year. Successful, perhaps, in quotation marks, only went 7-9, but they also won the division because they play in the NFC East. Here's the good news for Ryan Fitzpatrick, the new Washington quarterback. He has that defense to lean on. Ryan Fitzpatrick's played just about everywhere in the NFL, and he hasn't always had a defense to make up for some of the mistakes he might make in terms of interceptions. Jonathan Allen and his teammates on the defensive side of the ball account for that. And by the time it's all said and done, when the season starts in September, there could be 8 first-round picks on that defense, starting with the 4 guys I just mentioned on the defensive line. So Jonathan Allen's now down in terms of Washington, one less player to worry about entering the final year of their deal. There's some other names to worry about should Washington want to bring some of these guys back, starting with Brandon Scherff, who is 29 and playing on the franchise tag. Ryan Fitzpatrick is only playing on a 1-year deal. Let's figure that out. Logan Thomas, the really good tight end, is 30 years old, but coming into his prime after beginning his career as a quarterback. So there are a lot of different ways for this team to get better. Signing Jonathan Allen now is a great direction in which to start. And we were talking about this before we started the segment, Amanda. The Cowboys are still favored right now to win the division. I like Washington a lot. They're plus 260, and I feel like they're in better condition, in a better spot than the Cowboys, who have Dak Prescott, of course, but have a lot of other issues on defense especially.
Ryan, I mean, just looking at this defensive line as a whole, I mean, how lethal is it? And would you argue it's the best in the league?
It's right up there, and it would be hard to argue otherwise because the 4 first-rounders we're talking about, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, and, of course, Chase Young. How good was defense last year? They were 3rd in DVOA, which is basically value per play. How good do you play in and play out compared to every other team? They were number 3 behind only the Steelers and the Saints. They ranked 2nd against the run, 3rd against the pass, and I'll bring it back to what I just said. If you can control things on the defensive side of the ball, that's a lot less pressure on your offense. It certainly helps to have Ryan Fitzpatrick, but Taylor Heinicke had success last year with that defense dominating when he came in late in the year. And I think that's going to be the critical difference between every other team in this division and Washington. Their defense is lights out. The Giants defense got better with Patrick Graham, the defense coordinator, last year, but are they at a level where the offense can help them out? I'm not sure. We talked about Dallas's defense where there are a lot of question marks, but I think with Washington, you know exactly what you're getting on one side of the ball. You bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, the veteran. You bring in Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver, to help Terry McLaurin. You have Antonio Gibson, the running back. You have a pretty good offensive line. The pieces seem to be in place to improve on the 7 wins last year, not only because there's an extra game to play, but because the football team on paper looks a lot better. And again, it starts with bringing back Jonathan Allen, arguably the most important person on that defense.
Washington, as you mentioned, 7-9 this past season. You also mentioned even though the Cowboys are favored to go ahead and win the NFC East, especially with the return of Dak Prescott, that you still like them ahead of the Cowboys. But beyond that, just give me your outlook for Washington this upcoming season.
I think it starts with Ryan Fitzpatrick. We've talked about how good the defense is, but he comes in understanding that he doesn't have to do it all. He can throw 2 interceptions and still be able to help that team win and not worry about, okay, another interception means we're out of this altogether, because I think that defense will allow it will keep other teams, to 21 and fewer points. And I feel like this offense, the way it's constituted now, has the ability to put up a lot of points. So what happens when you're talking about Dallas and the Giants and the Eagles? I think with Dallas, the question isn't Dak Prescott for me coming back from that leg injury. I think he's going to be great. The question for me is Mike McCarthy. Which coach is he going to be? Is he going to be the guy that Aaron Rodgers ran out of Green Bay? Or is he going to be the guy that was admitted to being more open-minded once he got back in the NFL? We'll see about that. That defense is also a huge issue. I think the Eagles have a ton of of problems starting with their quarterback and their offensive line. And the Giants, who is Daniel Jones going to be? Is that defense able to replicate what they did last year late in the year? I think Washington has so many fewer questions. The defense is really good. Ryan Fitzpatrick elevates the offense along with the players they sound like Curtis Samuel. And to me, they have a chance to win the division and do it much easier than the Cowboys, even though Vegas right now thinks the Cowboys should be the favorite.
Ryan, it's been a minute since we've seen you. I hope you had a good summer. But since you are back, that means, of course, we are close to the return of this season. Washington now looking forward to it, bringing back, or I should say, signing an extension with Jonathan Allen, $72 million, 4 years there. Ryan, thank you so much. All right, so taking a look at the schedule for the Washington football team there, of course, starting with the Chargers in week 1. And again, the news we were talking about now, agreeing to an extension with defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, 4 years, $72 million. And Ryan says, despite what the odds makers in Vegas may think about the NFC East, he is going with the Washington football team to go ahead and win that division.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.